Well, just live.
Oh. We're like live recording, or we're now...
Hello, and welcome to the training. My name is Lindsay Dragon, and I'm going to play a PowerPoint while we're waiting on other people to pop in. So let me real quick share my screen. And this way, you can play get some fun information out there for us while we're waiting on others to join in. Liz and I were mid-conversation when 6 o'clock hit, so
Yep.
apologize. So we're just going to wait for a few minutes and let this go through a few times. This is the information for the Autism Center at Misericordia, and you'll see the Autism Educators Support Alliance information there, and that's for educators or any person who is professionally working with a student or child with autism. Another major part of our Autism Center is the ALL program, Autism for Lifelong Learning. The information says it's for 18 years and older, but you can really start as early as 14, getting those transition to work skills. So I'm sure with today's training, as with many others, there's so much information as far as what you can do and try with your kids or clients with autism. So we would like for you guys to send us some videos or pictures or comments. You can either email them to us or throw them out on Facebook and tag us in them. We want to know what you guys are doing that you have seen from our trainings, and if they're working for you or if they're not working for you. So definitely, there we go. You can tag us on Facebook at Autism Center MU, and that'll bring up the Misericordia page, or you can email us there at the bottom. So we're just going to wait another minute or two, and we'll let this run through one more time after this one's over. So there's a lot of information here. So one thing for the ALL program, that you do have to have a diagnosis for autism. It can't be for anything else on its own if it doesn't coincide with autism. Autism is the main factor for that program. I can't wait to try a lot of these things, and I'm excited to see what's in this presentation to add to my list of things to do. So we'll give this just another minute here, minute or two, and then we'll stop sharing and do some intros and get started. We're going to let this run through one more time, and then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
The autism hubs, you'll see the information on the next slide here. There are 5 hubs, and Misericordia was very happy to be one of them. They're called the Autism Collaborative Centers of Excellence. So you'll see that information there on the bottom. You can visit their website and find out which hub is closest to you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this now. And I want to say hello. My name is Lindsay Dragon, and I am the administrative assistant at the Misericordia Autism Center. And we are very excited for another presentation today. And I just wanted everybody to realize that we will have the chat box on the bottom of the screen there. If you run your cursor over the bottom, that's where you should ask any questions or throw out anything. And throughout the presentation, if we get a lot of questions, I'll either stop Liz or I will ask those questions at the very end. Don't hold back, she can take it.
Yeah.
So this is Elizabeth Macy, and I call her Liz. I had the pleasure of starting out with Liz as a coworker and now as a friend.
Yes.
So go ahead, Liz, take it away.
Thanks, Lindsay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Yep, my name's Liz Macy. Professionally, I go by Elizabeth, or if my mother's yelling at me, I get called Elizabeth, so I prefer Liz. And I definitely want you to ask me questions. I would love to answer them, so please pop them in the chat so Lindsay can kindly interrupt me with them. So I am going to be going over autism and the outdoors from a parent's perspective. So let's get started. Oop, let's see. Maybe we will. Let's see how we can. There we go. So who am I? I'm Liz Macy. I went to college and received a degree, a bachelor's of science in biology. And out of college, I started working at an amazing school in the Wyoming Valley called the Graham Academy. So the Graham Academy houses a upwards of 13,000 square foot educational garden, and that is what I managed at my time there. And for those who don't know, the Graham Academy serves children living with autism and emotional challenges, and the educational garden on premise is just an amazing resource to the students, to the staff, and to the parents that get to experience the benefits of having their child go through the educational gardening program. However, my time at the Graham Academy definitely came to a close, and I was offered a different position working at an environmental consulting firm, which is why I am in a beautiful Econo Lodge located in State College, Pennsylvania right now.
It's beautiful.
Not how I would decorate, but it's definitely clean, and that's what I want. So now I work in the renewable energy industry as a environmental consultant, and I do a lot of different things, different hands-on things like wetland delineations and GIS, and talking to a lot of people now, but now I'm just talking to adults instead of working with children. And I have to say, working with children is a lot more fun sometimes. So I still stay involved with the autism community. It's something I'm very passionate about. It's something I worked in for 6 years prior to being at Schoner Environmental, which is where I work now. And I think it's very important, and I can see the benefits that it has. Specifically, you know, now being friends with Lindsay, seeing the benefits it has on her child who has autism, Jackson, and I'm happy to share it with you and work you through any of the fears and anxieties that kind of come with the great outdoors. So the rundown of this is that this is the first video of a two-part series. There's kind of a lot to digest here, and I think to make it more enjoyable for myself and for you is to break this up into 2 parts. And throughout this 2-part series, I want to teach you the tools for integrating the outdoors into your child's life. That's my overall MO here. The first video is going to be a lot of background and a lot of basically thought work that you're going to be doing as a parent. And then our second video and our second presentation will be more of the boots on the ground. So today's presentation is going to be all about thought work and the background behind this, and our second presentation will be boots on the ground and taking your kiddo outside and having fun with that. So Lindsay had mentioned, but yes, please comment your thoughts and questions throughout the video. I really want to hear from you. I love to talk, and I want to be able to work you through anything. So definitely take advantage of that. Okay, so like I said, video 1 is going to be a lot of background. So we're going to go over 3 main things. 1, the benefits of outdoor play, and just a little sales spiel of why this should entice you as a parent. 2, going over how we're going to get started with that, and overall it's going to be in the home. And then 3, I'm going to go over 2 sample activities / lessons. They're very simple, but simple is better as a parent, and especially for, you know, just getting started with something new. So we're going to start with the benefit of outdoor play and go over a couple different aspects of this. 1, we're going to go over life skills. Obviously, being outside can teach you so many life skills that you don't even know are happening, whether you're going out as an adult or as a child. Healthy lifestyle, how this can really, you know, work towards creating a healthy lifestyle, whether that's diet and exercise, or maybe even both. Sensory exposure, which we know is huge and essential for when you have kiddos with autism. Growth and development, self-esteem and well-being, so important, even for us. And I think the same effects you're going to see for your child, you will also be experiencing as well, which, you know, I'm never going to turn down some self-esteem. And bring it out. And most importantly, in bold, a connection to the natural world. So the benefit of outdoor play, life skills, and healthy lifestyle. This is one of the simplest ways to build fundamental skills by just stepping outside. When you step outside of your door and move into the natural world, you are already developing life skills. And you might be wondering, well, that doesn't seem obvious. What are those examples? I think for a child, any child, and especially a child with autism, engaging in observation and investigation, basically curiosity, or I like to call it land snorkeling. So when you're snorkeling in the ocean, you have this really unique view through your goggles, and you're seeing fish swim by, and you're seeing coral reefs, you're seeing the sand on the bottom of the ocean, and you're really focusing on being curious and investigating your surroundings, because you're strictly focused on snorkeling. That's your activity. So land snorkeling is super important for your kiddo. It is an opportunity to just look at the world with a patient and curious mindset. Situational awareness. This is super scary for a parent of a child with autism. It's super scary when you're an educator working with your population of children that has autism or emotional challenges, because I think that's the first thing that goes out the door. And it is something you can control to a certain extent, but there's always that fear of, if I take my eyes away for 1 second, will the situational awareness be there? And I think going outside, a child can learn to recognize situational awareness and basically analyze the risk-benefit situation. When you are out in the forest or out in a garden or out in a park, there are a lot of risks that can be there, like bees. Bees are kind of scary. Water, huge, scary situation. The ability to climb on different things. So a child's really able to explore situational awareness and start being able to assess risk and benefit. And I think that's a really good activity you can engage with your child, to allow them to be curious, but also start to teach them the risk benefit of certain situations under parameters that are suitable for your kiddo. Number 3, empathy. That is a huge life skill that I think, even adults need to be better at and work on. And I think outdoor play teaches empathy just because of the observation and the curiosity that you embark on when you're outside. You are able to learn a certain amount of respect and love for the space you're in, because you want to keep it looking beautiful and you want to be respectful towards it. So empathy is something that naturally comes out of it. A garden is a really good place for this. A lot of kids are really curious about things like flowers. And I noticed at my time at the Graham that empathy was taught almost immediately when a child would walk up to a flower, think it was pretty cool, immediately rip the flower off and destroy it, and oh no, the pink pretty flower is no longer there. And I noticed that when they would come back to that same flower bed, they wouldn't touch the flower because they realized it was actually very beautiful, and they wanted to keep it looking that way. They explored it, and we'll go over that and how that's okay, but empathy comes from that. Communication skills, I saw that a lot with bringing kiddos into the garden. They were able to advance their communication skills and be able to understand what they need. And I think the communication skills out in the outdoors are very practical. Things like, I need water, or I'm too hot. Communication skills that parents and educators often try to promote. These are things that come a little bit more naturally in the outdoors simply because of the exposure. Now, I definitely think this one can take the longest amount of time because sometimes our kids will want to keep playing because they are having fun and totally not realize that their skin's burning from sunburn, but it's something that we can definitely work towards teaching them. And pro-social behavior or collaborative thinking. Being outside, and I think especially if you start by taking your kid into public parks, there are going to be other people there. And if you take them to playgrounds, which that is outdoor play for sure, your kids are going to be able to start engaging in pro-social behavior and start to work with the children of varying ages around them, and that is so important to integrate that into society. Unfortunately, I think sometimes children with autism are so into their own world and having so much fun on their own that they forget that there's a room of kids around them that maybe want to be their friends, but they're just not there yet to be able to talk to them. And I think getting outside and getting into shared spaces, which is kind of scary for the current state of the world, is a great thing for your kid. Sensory and physical development. Sensory is so huge. When I was running the garden program at the Graham, and when I was working at a few summer camps before I was at the Graham, I couldn't emphasize how often I use sensory unknowingly and knowingly for my kiddos. So, but first we're going to go over physical development because that's also next slide will be sensory. I always go on a sensory tangent, whether it's warranted or not. So being outside definitely promotes physical development. I am a true believer that it can organically influence fine and gross motor skills. This is basically how we move our bodies. So some examples of fine motor skills in the outdoors would be getting into a garden bed and working soil through your hands, or playing with small varying sizes of seeds, or holding a shovel, and basically anything you're using your fingers for. Planting seeds of various sizes, being outside at a park with your family and popping bubbles and focusing on, using fingers or your nose to pop bubbles. And, that's also a very fun sensory experience for children and adults. And then we have examples of gross motor skills, which are, using your limbs and using your whole body. And this could be walking or running around a local park. Depending on where your kiddo's at, simply walking from A to B can be something that you're actively working on for them and trying to find the support for them to do. And, maybe picking 2 trees in a local park to walk between, or maybe start to run between, is an amazing way to influence gross motor skills and promote the development of gross motor skills for your child. Some fun things like climbing and jumping over logs and stones on a hiking trail, or in your backyard or in a garden. And then something more specific, like if there's a log on the ground, balancing on it and using it as a balance beam. Those are really fun and easy ways to promote gross motor skills, and just let them happen naturally, whether you're hand holding or allowing your child to explore more independently. And I think the the physical development just naturally ties back into a healthy lifestyle. When you open up an entire playground, like a hiking trail or a forest, to a child, they are just going to want to explore. And unknowingly, they're getting their steps in for the day, and you're seeing a kid that maybe is a little bit more sedentary, moving their body like you've never seen them do before. And trust me, I've watched it. There's very few cases where I haven't seen it. So it's definitely awesome. have sensory development. I can get back on my tangent about it now. Sensory stimulation is everywhere, and it's multiplied in the outdoors. So obviously you have your 5 main senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. And I'm going to go over a few examples of where we see them in the outdoors, but I think you can do this at a park. You can do this in the gardens are a really good space for this. If you don't have your own, say you live in an apartment or you don't have a green thumb yet, there are some really good areas around you. There, in almost every area, there is some type of garden program, whether that's a community garden. If you're on the eastern side of the state, there is a beautiful place called Longwood Gardens that's so fun for kids to walk around. A lot of places have these where you can go and actually go to someone else's garden. They do the watering and all the work for you. You just get to smell the flowers. It's great. So gardens are a definite hotspot for this, and I'm a huge proponent for incorporating them into your child's life. So, your first sense is sight. We use this by simply stepping outside of our door. Some specific examples would be having your child locate things in nature that are different colors. And as you can see, I have a little arrow pointing it. This could be turned into a really easy scavenger hunt activity of having a little color board. You can make it that simple. And I want to preface this. I'm assuming all of your children are on different developmental levels. So this is any example I make, feel free to ask a question about how to modify it to a different developmental level, but you think about this and modifying it to what your child's capabilities are or where you want them to be to modify that activity. But say we're, locating different colors in nature, you could simply bring out a palette of different colors and have your child run out and find things that are that color and place them on top of the little boards you made. Super easy scavenger hunt activity that could be hours of fun for you. Another way we could use sight is by viewing water features.
Liz, real quick.
Yes.
I have an idea, just so that somebody knows what a color board or palette would be. You could simply take a white piece of paper and take colors that are already outside. You don't want to set anybody up for failure. And just take a marker or a crayon or colored pencil and, scribble, like a block or draw a circle, right?
Absolutely. And you win the prize today because you'll see that later in the PowerPoint presentation. And that's probably why you have an amazing garden already. Yeah, it could be that easy. And the best part about that is, and we'll get to it later, is that these are things that you don't have to do any step on your own here. Every time you choose to incorporate a child into the prep work, you're benefiting them. You have hosted a few different presentations on social stories where you basically prepare your child by creating a nice visual book of exactly what they're doing. And this is such a great time to use social stories, both knowingly and unknowingly. And so that was spot on, Lindsay. Yay. Yay, you win. Number 2, sound. Sound is everywhere outside. My favorite 2 things, this is exactly what I do, is I'm a huge birder. Listening to birds, they are so relaxing. There's so many different sounds, so many different frequencies. And I think with autism, sometimes sounds can be perceived differently. So exploring how your child reacts to different bird sounds or different, frequencies out in nature, and what they acclimate to is a really good way to learn more about your kiddo. Something really relaxing, like just sitting with your family quietly for a second, which might be hard to do with small kids, and listening to the wind through the trees. The wind on your face and the wind through the trees can be the most cleansing feeling in the world. Tell me I'm wrong. 3, touch. Touch is so important, and I don't want you to be afraid of it. Let your kids touch everything they see outside. Maybe we're going to discount poison ivy and bumblebee stingers and maybe stinging nettle. Other than that, let them touch, let them get their hands dirty. There's so many different textures outside, like the feeling of a mud puddle and just letting your kid get crazy with that, walking in the grass without shoes, running your hand over moss, touching different types of plants. It is such an undervalued thing, and nature's full of so many different textures. Fourth, we have taste. So you can get into foraging. I would definitely say it's a little bit more of an advanced technique because you obviously want to make sure you're picking the right thing. But sometimes foraging could be more simple than you think. Eastern Pennsylvania is loaded with so many farms that offer blueberry picking and strawberry picking and apple picking, and I definitely would consider that a type of foraging. Yes, it is a planted, intentional plot of land used for a specific crop, but it's a great way to take your kid out and try different things. Get them into fruits, get them into vegetables, and definitely don't look past that. It's a great opportunity, a controlled environment to go out with your family and be able to engage in taste exposure and all of the other things. Fifth, we have smell. This is the first thing that comes to mind when we think of a garden, sniffing flowers. Taking a handful of pine needles and just cracking them between your hands and having your child engage with that. It is super fun, and you could find so many fun different smells. Even the eggy smell that soil and mud produces if it's submerged in water sometimes. Even the ones that are a little bit less enticing, wouldn't want to have it as a candle in your home, are still fun things to explore with your kids. Who knows? Some little kids maybe love the smell of sulfur in the soil. Don't knock it till you try it.
Liz, one thing that I didn't know for a while was that when you rub like an herb or something between your fingers, that will release the smell a lot more, and it'll be much more fragrant than if you just picked up the pine needles in a bunch and you put them. Yeah, you would get a smell, but once you crack them like pasta, right, you're going to get that really rich smell. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Rolling, I mean, that just ties back in with touch. If we'll go over this so much in the second video, but we'll touch on it now too, because why not? This
Sorry.
could be something, no. This could be something super intentional. Maybe as a parent, you're not a super outdoorsy person yet. That's fine. You can make this a little bit more planned and have more control. So you can maybe Google a few different types of flowers that you can buy. Go to Wegmans and buy a bouquet of flowers, lay them out nicely, and let your kid and let yourself go to town on ripping them apart and rubbing them through your hands and smelling them or creating art with them. This doesn't have to be a Bear Grylls survival situation by any means. You can pre-plan this, and I think once we get to starting with the home, you'll see that this can be a controlled activity and still be a free reigning activity too. The control does not have to go out the door here, because maybe you want specific smells. Maybe you want them to smell different types of herbs and flowers, and maybe some funny ones. Like, I'm just thinking, I'm a
you can
wetland
wear
scientist.
gloves.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in touching.
Yes. Yeah. If your kiddo likes gloves, wear them. If that would help them do the activity, absolutely. Work with them. Let them drive the narrative. You just provide the fun. Okay, so the benefit of outdoor play, self-esteem and well-being. It breaks my heart when a child does not have self-esteem. When you can see all the beauty that they possess and all the ability that they have, but they don't see it in themselves yet. And that is why people who work in the autism community especially are there. They want to see that confidence instilled, because once you get a little bit of confidence, that kid is going to take off like a rocket, and it is the best feeling in the world. So time and time again, I watched children have their confidence skyrocket after coming out in the garden. And I think a takeaway here would be that no task is too small to instill confidence. You'd be surprised that really just grabbing a seed out of a packet and putting it into soil and covering it with soil, that takes 5 seconds, can change a child's perspective of how they see themselves. No task is too small, because as long as they can do that activity and get it done, they've done something for themselves. Whether they recognize the whole idea of it yet, that's a different thing, but just being able to complete tasks outside is something that will skyrocket confidence. And a child with a healthy self-esteem is more confident in day-to-day tasks, and that's just the truth. Whether they're more confident in tasks that you don't want them to do because they learn that, you know, they can jump off the back of the couch onto the staircase, you know, they're still confident. So, and they'll do it. But we just want them to be confident in things that maybe are more safe. So the outdoors are a great way to build self-esteem in fluid ways. It's just crazy how naturally they come. And it is because the outdoors is such a natural, organic environment to promote all different types of growth. So I bolded this little statement here because I think it is the driver, and that would be: locate and celebrate your child's strengths in nature and encourage curiosity. Now, working in the autism community, we know that sometimes our kiddos will avert to a task because they're just not interested and they know how to avert really well to it. And you want them to do it, and sometimes you get a little bit of a power struggle there. My approach to this is, when I take a kid out into the garden, or I take a kiddo out into the woods, I'm not going to create any power struggle whatsoever. I am holding their hand in a sense of keeping the situation safe, but they are really the ones that are leading me. I want to allow them to use their strengths because it subconsciously builds confidence. Will I be sad that I just spent 5 hours picking out a custom display of flowers for them to explore their hands, but for some reason they are interested in the ant pile on the ground? Yes, definitely, because now that thing's sitting there and they have no interest in it. But I'll get over that. It's fine. I'll play with that myself later. I am stoked that they are interested in anything, because the goal here is just to get them interested in the outdoors. So you know what? If you see that they're interested in that ant pile on the ground, run inside and get a magnifying glass for them, because that is what you're doing now. Because secretly you are allowing them to explore their interests and magnify their own strengths. So don't shy away from that.
And also don't teach them to burn the ants.
Yes, don't.
Be careful.
Yeah, you could do that on accident. Sun is strong enough. So sometimes your entire lesson plan will run out the door because there is a butterfly floating around on some flowers, and we're going to watch that for an hour and a half. And you know what? I wholeheartedly encourage with you. I feel like there's very few times you can just sit with your child and feel like you're one with them. Nature presents themselves in so many ways if you just allow yourself to ditch the plan and see through their lens, which I think, working with so many parents, they just want to feel like they can see what their child is seeing and see their world, because that's kind of the big question mark in the autism community, is what is my child experiencing? And the outside will really get you there in terms of just, you know, existing with them. And, you know, maybe you're just going to sit and watch a butterfly for 45 minutes or watch some ants, or maybe you're just going to put some mud between your hands. Let it happen. That is what we're going for here. And healthy living. So like I said before, I won't hammer this one in too hard. It just happens naturally. You're going to see your kid running around. You're going to see your kid getting up and down. You're going to see your kid trying new things and eating new foods. And that's really going to promote healthy living. And I think every family wants to do that as much as they can, because we get trapped in not cooking as many meals at home as we want because we're all busy. So healthy living comes naturally. I promise it'll be awesome for you. An apple a week is better than 0 apples a week. And lastly, we're at our last one here, is a connection to the natural world. Like I said before on the last slide, I think parents often wonder, I just want to be able to experience what my child is experiencing. And the cool thing about going out to a waterfall with your kid to look at it is that they're looking at the same waterfall as you, and they're appreciating that beauty with you. And whether they're liking a little bit something different about it, you're able to see the same exact beauty of that waterfall. And that's such a big connection tool and such a large bonding tool to have. And it's something to capitalize on and use moving forward. I like this quote by John Muir that says, "In every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks." And it's true. You might just think you're going out to look at a waterfall and you come back gaining so much more. You gained 10 minutes with your kid that you can cherish forever. And then another thing is that I noticed is that a connection to the natural world provides thought, formulation, and action. Children, when they're moving through nature, are allowed to formulate thoughts and complete actions that will many times surprise you. And again, it will come naturally. And it is a beautiful byproduct of that. So I went over all the beautiful pros. So the next question is, because we always have to remain unbiased here, is, are there cons? And yes, there are cons to, not necessarily cons, but risks to taking your child outside. We know that children with autism and the autism community can present a sort of elopement risk that is very terrifying. As an educator, as a parent, the fact that your child can slip from your grip in 3 seconds is, in a blink of an eye, is horrifying. And we want to mitigate that. And when we take them outside, we might create an affinity towards the natural world that, you know, one would think would promote an elopement risk. And a very specific example would be that I go up to Lindsay's house often to chit chat, and we're meeting with her neighbor, and we were talking about the beautiful forests of Dallas that she lives in and all these trails that are apparently behind her house. And her neighbor asked, well, why don't you go up in those trails more often? And Lindsay, who has her son Jackson, said, I would take him up there, but I'm scared that if he falls in love with it up there, that he might sneak out of the house and go up there. And that's scary because there could be people, they could get lost, they could get hurt. There were animals up there, and that's terrifying. And knowing Lindsay, who is a person who loves her backyard, who loves to garden, who loves to be outside, who loves to take her kids out there, knowing that she has that aversion to taking Jackson up there says a lot, because the last thing you would want to do is present something to your child that would ultimately hurt them. And I can 100% see how this may scare you. But I want you to remember that it's going to and will and can bring a plethora of benefits to your child. And my takeaway and my phrase will be prepared, not scared. A healthy amount of preparation towards this integration of outdoor play will allow you to drop some of those fears and anxieties. It's important to keep them in the back of your head, but when you're prepared and when you have specific plans in place for elopement risks, when you have specific plans in place for injuries and unforeseen challenges, and you're in the environment, it's a very tumultuous place sometimes. You need to be prepared, and I will teach you how to do that and not drop all the anxiety. You're a parent. You're probably gonna have anxiety forever if you have kids. But, most of them. We'll get there. Am I right?
Yes.
You just wake up in the middle of the night, like, are they still in the bed?
Yeah.
So, so now we're at the point of action. To begin this journey, we're going to start with the home. It is key and essential. Your home is your safe space, whether you think it is some days or not, even if it feels like a war zone sometimes. Your home is the place where your kid comes home to every night. They wake up in, they spend their free time, apparently all their time since we're in a pandemic. But it is the place that they feel safe, where they can probably be their self most of the time. And they show a side of themselves that they don't always show the public, like all of us. So starting with the home is 100% integral. It is your gateway. When you start incorporating things into the home, your children will start being able to see that and see the connection to the outside, which is why Lindsay bringing up the colors was so important. So 2 ways to start at home is to, 1, bring aspects of nature inside. You don't have to grow a jungle, but just aspects will work. And 2 is just simply starting the narrative. So bring nature inside, starting the conversation. Colors, boom, everything. Look up a nature-inspired color palette on Google. I can provide them for you if you need them. And go into the gigantic crayon bin that we all know you have and pull out those colors from the crayon bin and create a little curated crayon collection. Then go ahead, print out some coloring sheets and allow your kid to use them. This is a good subconscious tool to just let your child starting to get used to these colors that you're going to commonly see in nature, and it's going to create an amount of ease that will be amazing, especially if you have a lot of, like, for some reason in schools and in children's clothing, there's always like a bunch of bright neon colors. So maybe the nature colors, if that's not how you decorate your home, is a little bit unforeseen to them at the time. So starting to bring in those nature inspired colors will really do wonders, because they'll be able to say, I colored with that. Oh, I colored a tree. Trees are outside. I like to be outside because I like to color. Display photos of nature in your home. If you're a photographer, you can print out some of your own that maybe you take with your kids. You can go to TJ Maxx and find one and hang it in your kids' playroom or in their bedrooms. Or you can grab a couple old Better Home and Garden magazines and make a vision board with your kid. Or another way is, a way that I definitely promote would be to utilize your child's learning devices. If they work with iPads, if they work with binders, start filling it with photos of nature that they can start using to communicate with you. And that's a big thing, is especially if your child has a communication tool, is to upload images and words and keywords into them, because that they like to explore those communication tools, and once they start hitting them and playing them, this will become something that's rooted into their communication set, and it'll be easier to ease into the outdoors. View wildlife from the home by hanging a bird feeder near a window. If you live in a downtown apartment, maybe this is a little bit inaccessible to you, but there's always YouTube videos that people put videos up of their bird feeders that you can watch. So maybe when you're just hanging around the house on a Saturday, you broadcast that to your TV and just start allowing the images of nature to come into your life.
Liz, real quick, a side note. When you decide to put a bird feeder in your bedroom window, make sure that the type of seed that you're putting in it, if you're okay with loud banging on the window very early in the morning for hours, get those sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
But if you don't, take some consideration for your own mental health and well-being, and do some research on what seeds you should be putting in there to make it pleasurable and not a disaster.
Yeah, sunflower seeds would probably be loud. Yeah, some like smaller seeds or suet mixes or something like that. And I know that you also had a squirrel friend, so
yes,
You might be
Squirrely
attracted to some
Shirley.
other things. Yeah.
Shirley got in our bird feeder and decided to make it her home. And so we had to move it. But you have to be careful because sunflower seeds can attract bears. You
Mm.
know, you really have to take uh, account of where you live and also how agile squirrels are.
Yeah, for sure. And lastly, a very tangible option would be to incorporate plants into the house. You can purchase house plants at Lowe's, Walmart, Home Depot for $3. I would stick away from succulents, well, at least ones that have um, little prickers on them, but use them as sacrifice plants. God bless them. They'll probably get ripped up. It's okay, but they're really, or they might die if you don't have a green thumb yet. But purchase these cheap little plants and put them on your kid's windowsill. And also accept the fact that the soil might get dumped out. Can't tell you how many times I've cleaned soil up because a kid picked it up and threw it right at me or on the ground. It's okay. I want you to have fun with this and don't take yourself too seriously. Yep, so this is just a little bit of summary on that. I'll go over the first one. Feel free to read the other points. Is that by initiating nature play in the home, you have a great opportunity to identify interests. So just how I was saying before on a couple slides, that you may have spent 5 hours picking out and curating a beautiful sensory play exercise of flowers and herbs, and your child sits and looks at ants. Look at that as a total win. Everything we do out here is going to be an absolute win because you just identified an interest, and that might be really hard for you to feel like you are even able to identify what your kid likes sometimes. Anything they take curiosity in is a possible interest, and that is something you are going to be able to run with. And you know what? I will read the bulleted part because I bulleted it for a reason. So my advice at this stage would be to let your child lead the narrative here. Encourage curiosity and drop expectation. Take their interest and run with it, but be prepared to change course with them. As a parent of a child with autism, you are responsible for being their safety while exploring the natural world. Let them show you the world through their eyes. Yes, I did bold that for a reason because it is in summary to everything I said in the past couple slides, and put it on a t-shirt. It's super important. Okay, so we're getting to the end here, and I'm going to go over 2 sample activities and lessons. So like I bolded down here, I will be verbally moving through these 2 activities. Please ask questions at this point if you have them, and you can also drop your email in the chat, and I have PDFs of these lessons plans that I can email out to you this week. So again,
One moment. Please do not put your email in the chat slide because this is recorded and it will be going on YouTube. So I have your email already from any registrants. So if you could just let me know if you're interested, I will then forward your email to Liz.
So do not put your bank info into the chat.
Or your PIN.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So do what Lindsay said, and we can get some PDFs emailed out to you. I was an educator, so I have a lot of those in my Google Drive. And so this is why Lindsay won 100 points in a cookie, nature art. So this could be interpreted in so many ways. I'll go over a few different ways you can interpret this activity, from most simple to a little bit more involved. And again, this can be modified to where your child's at. A 16-year-old is still a child, and I'm in my 20s and I still want to do these things. So this extends through the age brackets. It's not just for a tiny child. It could be for anybody. And that's why you could modify it to where you're at. Nature art. So like I had said before, nature often brings in a lot of different colors, moss greens and pinks and oranges and reds and browns and sandy colors, and they're all very beautiful. So this is a time to flex that muscle. So if you're working with a smaller child, you can simply go through your crayon bucket and pick out those colors and have them do a coloring sheet. You can go ahead and integrate the scavenger hunt that I had mentioned before, and maybe have them run outside into your yard and find a few things. You know, if you pre-screen your yard for the colors that are definitely there, and allow them to bring a few things in. Again, your home is your safe space. Your backyard should be a safe space that your child can freely explore without inherent risk. You know, so maybe pre-screen a little bit of a scavenger hunt activity where they bring it in, and maybe they do a matching activity where they find the crayons themselves that match that color. And then they create some art with that. That is a kind of a two-staged one. Or you can pull out some Elmer's glue and allow them to glue that to a piece of cardboard, a nice square piece of cardboard, and create a scene from that. So nature art is a really good way where you can either just start with a flatter medium like crayons or colored pencils or markers, and move all the way up into more of a 2D, 3D design of actually bringing in pieces of nature from your backyard. So that is definitely one of my favorite activities. When I was teaching at the Graham, if we had a rainy day, it is something I would always default to. It feels like that activity can be thrown in 100 different directions and still be fun, still be engaging, and the repetition of it sometimes is just as beneficial as the first time you do it. And 2, a planting exercise. So you can really just go to a Dollar General. You can go to a Family Dollar, a Lowe's, a Menards, I don't know where you are, and pick up a couple different seeds, grab a bag of soil, and have some fun with sensory here and allow your child to actually plant them. We don't have to grow a prize-winning pumpkin from this. We don't even have to grow anything. We can try, but simply the act of taking a seed, putting soil in a cup, making a little hole with your finger, planting a seed, covering it up, and watering it is integral and is essential. And allowing your child to come back, it is a multi-part exercise in the fact that you can do this for days on end, coming back and monitoring it, maybe playing with where you put it in your house on the windowsill. You can make it a name. You can decorate the cup. You can water it for different amounts. It does not have to survive, but just having your child engaging with the fact that putting a tiny little seed into a brown cup of soil and the fact that it could turn into a plant will interest your child. Now, a way to expedite this process, because I know that having attention span and losing interest is definitely something we fear, because I have a garden, planting a seed into a cup and waiting for it to give you a tomato in 4 months can be nerve-wracking to adults. So this might be an opportunity where you do pick up the seeds, you do pick up the soil in a cup, you work on the planting exercise, and then maybe you pick up different stages of those plants. They definitely sell them at garden centers, and bring them in almost immediately. Create like a little cooking show where at first you're beating an egg with flour and milk, and then in 3 minutes somehow we have a finished cake. It could be like that. And the reason for that, your child's going to be able to see the end product and realize that action does influence a greater thing and, will promote patience. So those are my 2 exercises that I wanted to go over. Now, that is all I have for you. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment them. And like I said, in the next video, just some things to entice you to come back or to watch the next video that's up on YouTube would be that we are going to go over how to choose a location that's right for your family to take your child outside into, how as a parent you can be prepared, by doing a little bit of prep work, by having a backpack full of things that you can use to calm yourself down, both mentally and physically. You're going to have a backpack, but you're going to have one up here too, to calm yourself down in situations where it feels like the environment is moving and spinning out of your control. And we're going to, basically pinpoint areas of interest that you may want to go, how to mentally and actually pack a backpack to bring with you, and kind of move through some possible scenarios of what can happen when you're outside, and also bring in some activities that, like I said, probably will be thrown out the window, but ways that you can feel prepared, because we want to be prepared and not scared as we actually take our children into the outdoors. So if you have any other questions, or you just want to contact me and chit chat, I'm Italian. I love to chit chat. You can email me. It's right there. And I also have a LinkedIn if you want to connect with me on there. I really think this will be something that's going to have a great effect on your child and on your family. I think some things people learned throughout this time in the pandemic was that family time is everything, and simply spending time together can bring you closer, even if that whole day was filled with fighting because nothing's going right. So this is a great way to further that connection and actually be able to go outside with your family and form some new memories, and have leaps and bounds with your child. And I think that's what everybody wants to see with them. So that's all from me. That's all the talking I'm going to do. Take it away, Lindsay.
Well, that was awesome. I belly laughed a few times. So that was definitely a fun presentation. Thank you so much. Right now, I know we had one hand raised earlier. If you would be kind enough to put any questions you have in the chat, if you run your cursor on your computer, then you'll see the chat box on the bottom towards the middle. And you can put any questions in there for Liz. We'll give everybody a minute or two if you have any questions. And just a reminder, this will be posted on the Autism Center at Misericordia's Facebook page, and there will be a YouTube link. It'll be uploaded to YouTube and then posted. So I definitely have seen the benefits of these topics that Liz has brought to our attention. Because of knowing her, I learned from her, and I was able to implement them with my family. But the woods is pretty much our number one, like, it's a no-go zone. We do not go there, because in the event he gets lost, he can't come back, and if we call his name, he doesn't answer. And we also have swamplands around us, so there is some water. Not to mention animals. We have bears, we have, Squirrely Shirley. But I also want to learn how to get out there, and, so every Friday we take a trip to a different outdoor area. So this Friday we'll be at Francis Slocum, so I'm able to do those same things without, the fear that I have from the home trails. So yeah, it doesn't look like we have any questions right now. I would be very interested if you could send myself those lesson plans you spoke about.
Oh, yes, I definitely will.
And that way, if anybody's interested, we'll have them on hand. But definitely look out for the next video. We will be scheduling that. We're going to take the month of July kind of off from the webinars, so it'll probably be towards the end of July or in August, pending the schedule. So
I think that's good from everyone, because I was outside in the field for about 10 hours today, and it was 98 degrees, and I just couldn't wait to get into an air-conditioned hotel room. So I feel like everyone will want to wait until August and September to try all that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna come up with some great images, I think, for the land snorkeling and investigation for the outside. I think that'll be really cool visuals to throw in there to get kids more interested. My son personally has a heat sensitivity, so if we're outside, we might be out there for only 5 minutes. So I have to get in, get out, because he just doesn't want to be out there after that.
Yeah.
So Okay. Well, again, I'm Lindsay Dragon from the Autism Center at Misericordia, and this is Liz Macy, fantastic environmental consultant, right?
Yep.
So, all right. Well, thank you all so much. I'm just going to double check here. Yep, land snorkeling is going to be the best.
It's a
So
fun.
that's what our comments are all about, land snorkeling.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and have a wonderful July 4th. All right. Okay, we're
Thank
going
you,
to end
everybody. I
now.
appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye.